break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation, you know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
Hi, Sue Lawson here with Indie Film Nation, coming to you from virtual land these days, but delighted to have with us the writer, director, and animator of Space Wizards Must Die, which was one of the sweethearts of Slamdance this year. Grier, come on in, join us. Tell me,
Hi.
Where did the idea come from? Space Wizards Must Die. First of all, love the name.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I like sci-fi, I like action and comedy, and I just hadn't quite seen something that checked all the boxes of what I wanted. Like my inspiration kind of was like an airbrushed wizard on the side of a van, or the old movie Heavy Metal. Like it didn't quite ever live up to the poster for it, so I wanted to try to make something that lived up to the poster of those things, that was just crazy colors, bright action, funny, so that was kind of my inspiration. I don't think I got quite there, but I was very happy with how it turned out.
How long was the process on this? I mean, it's animation. That in itself can take forever.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I definitely, like a lot of people, this was mostly a pandemic project, a quarantine project. So I was working on a TV show right as the pandemic hit. And when I was on that, this was March 2020. So I recorded a couple voices. I was doing a couple sketches, working on the 3D models. But then when the pandemic hit and that show wrapped up, I really hit this full time for a couple months in 2020. And for me, it was a fun process because I'm a filmmaker. Traditionally, I've made a lot of short films that also got into Slamdance. And more, I just got fed up with production. I was like, I'm a motion graphics, VFX kind of person. So I was like, let me use my tools to tell stories rather than set up a shoot, cast actors, have craft services, costumes, locations, sets. So I was like, I got anxiety thinking about another project that I would do. So I was like, I'll do animation. It's what I'm strong, it's what I'm good at, using my strengths. And this was still pushing myself because I'd never done character animation like this or 3D animation. So I was learning a lot as I was going, and I purposely picked a style that was really lo-fi. The computer I was working on at home was like 15 years old at this point. So I picked a style that was like not Toy Story, not Disney Pixar. It was lo-fi, quick to render, not a lot of layers, but using my strengths in compositing and After Effects to kind of give it some love and some zhuzh.
OSR Space Wizard Level 48, and I carry the burden to fulfill this prophecy, destroying Kamaga once and for all. I pray to be the last of the chosen. I pray this battle between good and evil can finally end.
Man, so awesome. I also pray for the end. Although I am but a humble space wizard squire, I have...
The gates of King Avadaki. We have arrived.
Now, was this a complete After Effects project?
It still involved 3D in Maya. So Maya is like a big, 3D program that is kind of a beast to learn. But doing what I did with it, it was very lo-fi and not a lot of crazy reflections and shadow passes. Oftentimes, there'll be like a whole team working on the dust for a shot in a, Pixar movie. So this, I tried to bring it way back and give it a kind of 80s, 90s retro 3D feel. And doing all that just made it a lot faster to work. And being able to finish in After Effects, again, that's my strength. So all the lighting and the color and all that is all in After Effects, not in 3D. So kind of playing to my own strengths.
It seems as though your choice, all the choices that you made when it came to this movie, were not necessarily precipitated upon budget, but upon your strengths and what you wanted the final project to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird world in animation where I have certain limitations that are not obvious. Like with the animation, I can set it on an alien planet. There's a giant spaceship. There's, a giant 400-foot floating hand in space. Like these are all things that are like easy, I can do that. But the tricky things are like, man, animating his cape is really hard. I don't need a lot of those shots, or like the particles flying out of the ship, like, ooh, that's really hard to do. I'm not going to do that again. So it's like a weird version of weird limitations that I have and others that you don't. Like, I don't want to have 10 characters on the screen that I have to animate by hand. So it's like, all right, we'll do 2 characters. And then, but I can still kind of write whatever I want in a weird way. So it's a different form of limitation, but it's fun to just be able to write kind of whatever you want,
It seems as though those limitations, if you will, went ahead and kind of inspired you to be a little bit more creative in certain areas.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, especially with the look of it and just the feel of it, of having a lot of bright colors and glowing and neon, all of that is because I knew that I couldn't do a high quality 3D animation, so I was really embracing those things. And there's like subtle moments where some like camera depth of field blur, because that's kind of a heavy effect. So what I did for a couple shots, this is just like a nerd out thing for me, is like had it be really lo-fi and pixelated in the background rather than be blurry. So that's just another cheat, but it kind of adds a cool effect without even realizing it. It gives you a feeling that you don't you don't really realize until you really nitpick it.
For me, I think it's just visually a feast for the eyes. There's just something about it that you're like, okay, just seeing a still from it makes you want to go ahead and dive in and become part of this world and really embrace the entire film. So I think you achieved your goals with that.
Well, that's good. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it, which is, kind of the best thing to hope for.
So did the animation influence the story, or did the story influence the animation?
I mean, they definitely kind of happened in tandem because I'm always sketching things as I'm writing. But definitely, I think the writing came first. Like this is part of such a bigger story that I want to tell. These are just these first couple little micro episodes, but it definitely starts with the writing. And I've got, really funny friends and performers that do the voices, and, just trying to tell this, big kind of space opera, epic tale with interesting characters and locations, and then basically the style being like, what can I accomplish? What can I actually pull off? So, for the wizard character, you don't even see his mouth, because I was like, man, I don't want to animate the mouth or the eyes. So I just have a big beard and big bushy eyebrows. And it's like, all right, that's way easier to do now. So some of the things are like that, cheats to help me do the animation faster.
When I'm taking a look at this, especially the first scenes with the wizard and the squire, I don't know why, but I'm thinking Don Quixote. I mean, there's just something about that. Was that any type of, were you thinking along those terms, or not at all? It's just like, no, these are just...
That's a good visual analogy. I've definitely, gotten that by osmosis of the hat, the beard, the lance, Looks like a windmill in that tower that for that scene.
I kind of felt as though he's, he has this quest that he's going on. And because, well, I'm not going to give anything away, I'll just say he has a quest that he's going on. You found the cast for the series through friends and other colleagues that you've got?
Yeah, there's a big community here called UCB that's like an improv comedy studio or a theater. And I had a lot of friends that have gone through that and worked there. So I have this, network of friends that are just really great improvisers, really funny people, stand-up comedians. So I kind of tapped into that world a little bit, and I tried getting the wizard at first through Fiverr, because I've gotten voiceover work on Fiverr before, and it's been really successful. You can get, a British woman in her 70s to do the voiceover for a fake documentary. And it's been really good, but I tried to do that and I just couldn't get exactly what I was going for. And my friends, listened, and they gave me good feedback. I was like, nah, this isn't quite right. You need something, bigger or more theatrical. So I was able to get a couple friends who they work together a lot, and they're the squire and the wizard. So their dynamic was so good. But because this was all pandemic, almost all the voices were recorded separately and remotely. So I would love for the future episodes to actually film people in the same room, being able to improvise and bounce things back and forth. So it's a little rigid, even though some of the performances were kind of improvised. They weren't able to play off each other, which was, I think one of the things that would really add to a project like this.
Now you see this as becoming a series. You already have some of the series created. What are your plans for distribution?
Well, yeah, at this point, it's such a weird little micro episode series that the fun thing that we've been doing is the guy that voices the wizard, he does a lot in VR. So we've been able to develop the whole live animation system. So during the middle of there you go. So during the middle of the pandemic, when we couldn't normally I would rent a theater out and bring friends and do a screening. We couldn't do that. So we kind of had a live premiere to our friends where I was in a 3D avatar, and we could all puppet the characters in 3D space using goggles and the hand controls. And because they're good improvisers, it worked really well as a kind of secondary venue for this project. So that's something we're exploring. We're doing more live shows. We're going to do some in February. And the next couple of months through this channel on Twitch called Planet Scum. It's Chris Gethard, who's another... I know it fits in our theme very well, coincidentally. But it's Chris Gethard. He had a show on TBS, and he had a public access show. He's a comedian. So it's his kind of channel, and he cultivates different live stream shows. So we're going to be doing some shows on that. I think in the future, I'm currently on a film project that's been over a year now. So when this wraps up, I think I'll do a Kickstarter to kind of drum up interest and get a couple more episodes made. Just try to get some groundswell support rather than kind of top-down pitching. So I'm still going to try that, but there's not like any famous names attached, and we're all kind of nobodies still. So I think we gotta start from the ground up on this one, unfortunately.
Do you think the pandemic let me do it this way. I feel just listening to you that perhaps this project wouldn't have been made or would not have been made yet if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So there's that silver lining.
No, definitely silver lining with the pandemic. I mean, I reading through a lot of the stuff on Slamdance, I think a lot of the people had their, pandemic projects, and seeing how much work it took to pull this off. If I was working a full-time job, it would have taken 5 years, instead of 9 months. So yeah, it was it was a weird. I would have probably given up on this if I was trying to chip away at it, while doing a 9 to 5. So the other thing though is that I generally work on like TV shows and films. So I'll have like 9 months where I'm on a show, and then 4 months off, and then 10 months on a show, and then 6 months off. So I have these baked in breaks where I have time to work on my personal projects, and I have the luxury to do that where I can save up a little money and then not feel totally stressed while I work on my own project. So it's I would have had a little break like that, but it would have been pretty hard to pull this off without that 9 months inside locked up.
Well, what did you learn from working on this project that maybe you didn't expect going into it?
I mean, on the base level, I accomplished what I set out to do, which was to get into character animation a little bit more, get through that process from beginning to end, because I'd really like to get into that world more, and it's really hard to get. I mean, I had never been like this, so at the very least, I gave myself a portfolio piece, something for my demo reel, and show people, hey, I'm capable of this. So at the base level, I accomplished that. I just learned so many technical things about 3D that, you can only learn if you dig into a project and say, I have to get through, I have to learn this skill to finish this project. I have to figure out how to animate someone's face or rig a hand, to do these different things, like all this technical stuff that was really important. And it immediately paid off, where during the pandemic, I had a friend who was shooting a Miley Cyrus music video. He reached out. It's like, we need some special effects. One of the effects was to have a spider crawling across the screen on this web. And normally I would have been like, I can't handle that. That's too technical. But I was like, no, I can do this. I just learned how to do this. I can rig it up. I can animate. I can render it. So that was I immediately was like, yes, I can do that. So that paid off on a very, baseline level. That was like, I learned a new skill. I immediately could use it, in my professional life. And, so at the, all in all, great outcome from this little project.
Excellent. So now your plans for the future are, you said perhaps doing a Kickstarter for this project to go ahead and get a few more micro episodes completed.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun to do. I've got some scripts written, and I think we're going to explore the live show more. Everything I think is going to be through our website, spacewizardsmustdie.com. That'll be kind of the hub, because it's not really an Instagram thing. It's not really a Facebook or Twitter thing. So we're going to try to live there and, get people to sign up for the newsletter. And try to just get some fans of the project, start a little grassroots movement.
Great. Anything that I have not touched upon that you would love to go ahead and, why didn't she ask me this?
Having a premiere on Twitch was an interesting alternative to doing it in person. Like the in-person screenings we've done in the past were always felt like a really climactic finish to a project, where people are laughing, you can chat afterwards, everyone's very congratulatory. And it's such a team, for films, it's such a team process. There's so many people involved. But the Twitch premiere was actually, it was surprisingly good, because we can see the Twitch chat in our view in VR, so people can comment, and a lot of people were kind of heckling us in a good way, like making fun of the squire's backpack, or making fun of my model was like kind of janky the way it did, and we were able to interact with that and call people out and almost have a conversation with them. So my friend was telling me about it. He was like, yeah, I think that went really well, because it was almost like old Shakespearean plays where the audience would be like yelling things and heckling the performers, and it was more interactive than theater today. It was very like raucous. So that was actually a really fun aspect of it that I didn't think about, that is like making the premiere more interactive with the audience, and making, hearing people laugh and having them make fun of us and being able to answer their questions in real time. That was like a really surprising aspect of it, doing it on Twitch rather than in an actual theater.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to be here with us. Again, Sue Lawson and Grier Dill. Got it right. Got it right. Space Wizards Must Die here on Indie Film Nation. Make sure that you check out his website, spacewizardsmustdie.com. Thanks, Grier.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine.